Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in to my Super Chat. Thank you so much, people. Your support via Super Chat, via Patreon, helps me do what I do, and it's just so greatly appreciated. And it helps me, it really helps me be unique and independent, an independent, unique voice, and give you my kind of wacky, wild, interesting view of life and politics. So I appreciate your support on Patreon. The link is below and on my Super Chat. People, I have a great segment on H.A. Goodman's other channel. A very, very respectful critique of Crystal Ball, who is a top Bernie Sanders supporter. I have nothing but respect for her and Cigar Genti, who they have a show on the Hill, and I have just a great deal of respect for both of them. Crystal Ball had a critique of President Trump's supporters, and it was inaccurate. And I just, in the most respectful manner possible, explain how people are not voting for Trump, and this is why Kanye West is going to take so many votes from Democrats. And this is why President Trump is supporting Kanye West. We'll get to what he said in a second. But Crystal Ball gave a critique or an analysis of why people vote for President Trump. It was not accurate. And I'll explain in greater detail on H.A. Goodman's other channel. But people are voting for President Trump because he is reversing U.S. foreign policy. He is the first president to sign a deal to end America's longest-running military conflict. This is a huge thing that Bernie Sanders wouldn't have done. Bernie Sanders can't even admit he was cheated. Bernie Sanders can't even admit the whole Trump-Russia nonsense was completely fabricated. Bernie Sanders can't even explain why Debbie Wasserman Schultz was forced to resign in disgrace for cheating him. So it's like people are voting for President Trump because we had record low unemployment, record low Black and Latino unemployment before the pandemic. The pandemic, by the way, if you look, 5 Democratic-run states account for over half of all the lives lost. So people are voting for President Trump because he is the antithesis of Max Boot and Bill Kristol. Interestingly enough, Max Boot, Bill Kristol, and Bernie Sanders are going to vote for Hillary Clinton, not Biden. They're not going with Biden. I will have made the biggest political call of all time when they find some way to go with Clinton. But people are voting for President Trump because he signed the First Step Act, because he signed legislation, prison reform legislation. They say there's institutional injustice within our justice system. So he then says, okay, I'm going to sign prison reform legislation, and a tweet is looked at with greater fascination. They're obsessed over his tweets, but they don't look at the good things that he does. So he signs legislation increasing funding for historically black colleges and universities, which is fantastic. It was at $250 million, should be at $1 billion. Then he signed legislation combating anti-Semitism on college campuses, which is running rampant. Then he was the first president, Trump, to step foot in North Korea and begin détente between North and South Korea. Then he's the first president to truly address the $400 billion trade deficit, got us out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is what Bernie Sanders would have done. So, I mean, the thing is, the entire left has zero clue why anyone would vote for Trump. They don't understand. They don't understand, and everything has to be through the lenses of through the lens of race and what they think, why they think a Trump supporter would be duped into believing this con man, this con man. Well, I mean, so I have a very respectful critique of Crystal Ball's assessment of why people vote for President Trump. But speaking of a con man, in my view, you can't find a bigger fraud than Bernie Sanders, which is exactly why Kanye West will do very well. Because people want someone genuine. Now, Bernie gives the allure of being genuine, but really when it comes down to it, when he's tested, he failed that test miserably. And now he's basically joined Biden's campaign, and Biden would literally veto a Medicare for All bill. So tell me, and Biden would never bring home Americans from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts, which is what I assumed Bernie Sanders would do. But people vote for President Trump like they're going to vote. Many people will vote for Biden, who would have voted Democrat, because they want somebody to go up against corrupt intelligence officials. These are corrupt liars who fabricated evidence just simply because they didn't like a political candidate and because they didn't like Trump. So, I mean, I'm starting off with this because it's important. Like, people do not understand why anyone would vote for President Trump. Yet we have 63 million to 65 million. 63 million people voted for President Trump in 2016, and Gary Johnson took 4.5 million votes away from Trump. Without Gary Johnson, he wins the popular vote, even if you add Jill Stein to Clinton's total. So this is like a very bizarre time in American politics when you have an entire political side that literally doesn't know why 63 million people to 65 million people, because I called the 2016, NPR quoted me. I stated that Clinton would lose swing states. And she did lose swing states. And 538 said Trump wouldn't even be GOP nominee. And I'm telling you that he could win the popular vote very easily. Very easily. So, you're looking, ladies and gentlemen, at not only a Trump victory, because President Trump's going to win. They're not going to defeat Trump simply because of the apoplectic, hysterical, fanatical, fuming, seething, venomous reaction the Democrats and liberals and media and left-leaning pundits and journalists and activists and people who just don't like Trump, like, they're not, like, the country, President Trump is going to win in large part because these people can't fathom losing again. And because they can't possibly admit they lost for valid reasons, they will lose again. And because they can't possibly try to comprehend why people are voting for President Trump, they'll lose again. And because they don't stand for anything aside from opposing President Trump, they'll lose again. And because they actually stand against all the furthest left-leaning policies, like Medicare for All. Kaylee Smith! I almost voted for Gary Johnson. Very glad I trusted my gut and voted for Trump. Exactly. Kaylee Smith. Thank you. Kaylee Smith. Lots of people. A great many, like almost 4.5 million people voted for Gary Johnson. 4.5 million people voted for Gary Johnson. And Kaylee, thank you so very much. And you add the majority of those voters to Trump, he gets the popular vote. You add the majority of those voters to President Trump, and he gets the popular vote. So, I mean, it's just, I normally don't like, and this was like a respectful, my God, because everything nowadays, like if you disagree with somebody, it's like a big deal. This is a respectful, I'm going to say it a million times over, like that was just I have a respectful critique. It's on H.A. Goodman's other channel of Crystal Ball's assessment of why, and she gives generally the most generous assessment of why Trump voters vote for President Trump, although it still veers off into like this fantasy world that doesn't exist. Like, the majority of Americans are tired of being judged. They're tired of being judged. They're tired of being condemned. They're tired of outrage over. They don't care. Like, the biggest story now is the Mary Trump book. Okay? Who cares? Trump's niece, is it? Like, who cares? Why is this important? Why is this important? Why? Does anyone understand why this would be important? Trump has a large family that loves him. If you have a large family that loves you, and they're married, they're happy, they have kids, you've done your job as a human. As a human being, you've done your job. He's also president. He's also a billionaire. Is he perfect? No. Is Clinton perfect? Absolutely not. Either of them. Okay. Is Debbie Wasserman Schultz perfect? No, she resigned in disgrace for cheating Bernie. Kaylee Smith forgot to add a question. If Gary Johnson was threw off the popular vote in 2016, do you think Joe Jurgensen has the potential to do it again? No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all, because people aren't like Kaylee Smith. People aren't talking about the Green Party or the Libertarian Party this year. That's why when you talk about so Joe Jurgensen, most people don't know who she is. People did know who Gary Johnson was. That's why. That's why he was able to get so much support. The Libertarian Party was a place for people to vote because we didn't know President Trump is a good president. President Trump is a good president. He's a good president. The obsession, the fanatical response to everything he writes on Twitter, that doesn't mean he's a bad president. Everything now, Kaylee, thank you so very much. Trump's going to win. He's not going to lose. Now they're like, Max Boot of the Washington Post is like, well, Trump might not leave. And it might be a big problem. Like, well, if it's Biden, don't worry. It's not even going to be close if it's Biden. Kanye West 2020 would be a great trial run, says Trump. So 4 hours ago, West would likely do more damage to former Vice President Joe Biden's campaign than Trump's. Of course, because Kanye West is going to run, very likely, on ideals that left-leaning people gravitate towards. So does actually President Trump in many ways. Ending perpetual counterinsurgency conflicts, which is what Trump is about. More so, like, he signed a deal to get us out of America's longest-running military conflict. This was in February, and I can't even talk about it on a YouTube live stream. But if you look it up, he's the only president who could have done that. But President Trump said, while West has a real voice, he has to start the campaign quickly. It's very interesting. It'd have to be limited to certain states because in some states, but he could still be a write-in, I think, in most states. But regardless, he begins a presidential run. Kanye West is going to take millions of votes. Millions of votes from Democrats. And they spent 4 years. They spent 4 years doing nothing. Nurble Florp, yes! Will there ever be a payback time? Nurble Florp, there will be, but it's going to be after President Trump wins. with President Trump. Nerble, thank you very much. Krillin876, do you know why George Jurgensen had heat with Tulsi Gabbard? I don't know why. Krillin876, I don't know why. I don't even know much about Jurgensen. I don't know why. Nerble, thank you very much. Krillin and Nerble Florp, thank you so very much. This is the interesting thing, you know, the issue of payback is the big payback, like James Brown. Retribution, revenge. It's actually interesting because the law is on President Trump's side. You can't set up and frame people based on a fantasy. The DNC being hacked is not national security. Sorry, it's just not. And if they say, well, it swung the election, why? Because people are naturally repulsed finding out that you cheated your own candidate in Bernie Sanders. See, all of this revolves around Bernie Sanders being cheated. I mean, the man, God bless him, he's a good human being. The guy is, I hate to say this, but a coward. When you can't even admit that you were cheated, and you had $200 million that you got, and even like he was even on commercials. I got a small favor to ask you. Everybody. You got $1? We're going to give it to Biden, and then Biden's going to give it to Clinton. And then I'm going to endorse Clinton for the second time in a row. Guess what? I'm going to vote for Max Boot. I'm going to vote for, hold on one second. I'm going to vote for the same candidate that Max Boot and Bill Kristol and the Lincoln Project is voting for. You want to know something funny? Rose Twitter and the Lincoln Project are voting for the same candidate. That's funny. So, it's like, the left is completely dysfunctional. Completely dysfunctional. So the payback time, you can't get set up and framed. And you can't set up and frame an incoming candidate based on opposition research purchased by the opposition and utilized as like national security evidence to promote national security endeavors. So this is all against the law. U.S. Code 18 U.S. Code 371. But Nerble Florp, it's going to depend. President Trump wins, and I believe he'll win. My prediction is he's going to win. Then the payback happens, but it's going to be like a year, 2 years from now. So Nerble, thank you. I mean, the payback will be about a year, 2 years from now. It's not going to be anything that happens. Oh my God, you're interfering in the election. So, Wally Pop. Not sure if we're ready for 4 seasons of Keeping Up with the Kardashians in the White House. Wally Pop, I wouldn't mind. I swear to God, in 2024, if he runs as a Republican, I'm voting for Kanye West. I'm telling you, he could win the election as a Republican. I'm telling you. Could you imagine? He would obliterate Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. Because who do the Republicans have? Nobody. Aside from Trump, they're done. The Republican Party, aside from President Trump, is done. Just like the Democrats are done. The difference is that Republicans don't have media or Hollywood. So, if he ran as a Republican, he would obliterate, decimate any of his competition if he could communicate an actual platform that resonates with a great many conservatives. Which, by the way, conservatives nowadays have a lot more in common with 90s liberals. Wally Pop, thank you. Old School Dad Man, how do you transfer classified data between SAP servers? Exactly. Well, that's the issue. That's the biggest issue. Wally Pop, thank you. Nerble Florp, thank you. That's a great name, by the way. Old School Dad Man, that's the biggest topic that isn't addressed. Renee, link probably. Renee, thank you. I agree. Old School Dad Man, that's the biggest issue. Parabiology 101. Remember watching? That's right. Julian Assange lost, including hacking tools which can make it appear to be from any country. Exactly. Parabiology 101. The issue, Parabiology 101, which is a great point, is that President Trump has always been stuck between a rock and a hard place pertaining to this. In order to defend himself, he would have to completely undermine the absurd like the imbeciles within the American intelligence community. So, or the imbeciles that were running, they're working alongside Clapper and Brennan, I should say. So it's like he can't really do that. He can't really do that. Because there's almost certainly so much, like, they can't get into why. They can't get into how that the classified data was transferred onto servers outside of the United States government. They can't get into exactly how President Trump knows that he was set up and framed, because then that would undermine sources and methods. But that's what John Durham, they're almost certainly trying to find a way to get these people in a court of law and explain to the jury or judge that, yeah, that Trump had nothing to do with any hack of emails. So the maniacal attempt to oust him from the presidency seemed to be political. See, the media views this as national security. It's not. The DNC is a private entity. So that's, the DNC is a private entity. Parabiology 101, thank you. Thank you, Parabiology 101, as always. So, like, they are convinced. They're convinced. And see, this is the great thing about Trump. He's able to say whatever he wants without fear. Without fear of being like he doesn't care what they think of him. And that is the biggest, like, the biggest threat to the left is anyone who just doesn't care what they think of. Anyone who completely ignores their yelling and screaming and accusations and condemnation and judgment is a big problem to the left, because their credibility rests upon people then kowtowing and saying, oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean that. Or else it's like, well, number one, if you said something offensive, you say sorry, that should be enough. It's enough for left-leaning pundits. It should be enough for anyone else. The left gets caught all the time, Joe Biden especially. And their value system is so malleable and pliable, and they twist themselves up into pretzels, and then they still condemn and judge. So it's like their political ideology is not sustainable. At a certain point, people are just not, like, when they lose again, this is why you're seeing so much, like, let's just call it unrest. The way they see things is the following: we're gonna win, but if we lose, at least we will have tried our best to exert as much pressure or display as much influence as we can within a short amount of time. Because when President Trump wins again, you could pretty much say goodbye to the left-leaning paradigm of today. He's gonna take the Democratic Party and Twitter and basically shove them. They're going to be thrown into the dustbin of history, or whatever you want to call it, because the current Democratic Party isn't going to be around after Trump wins. Their credibility is predicated upon him being a one-term president. That's all they've been saying. Luke St. Martin, Eric H526, hello. Two best moderators in all of YouTube. Thank you. But so Kanye West 2020 would be a great trial run, President Trump says, and it's like they never debate. They never debate anything. They never debate. The left doesn't debate. The left doesn't. They never. They never look at why somebody would do something or why somebody would say something with nuance or context, or they never look at their political opposition and give their political opposition the benefit of the doubt. William Holloway! William! Donald J. Trump shows up to work every day with the door open. He plays it loose to see what happens. Keep saying the good word, H.A. Thank you, William. Yeah, you know what? He conducts his business without fear. You know, this is the most absurd time in American political, has to be one of the most, if not the most absurd time in American political history. The Democratic Party literally stands for nothing. They don't have any policies they want to implement. President Trump, you can list. He wants to reverse U.S. foreign policy. He wants to find out who framed and set him up. This is all, like, he was set up and framed. The left does not think so. They think that's fantasy. So what they've done is the Democrats say, no, not true. And then they have, media say, oh, it's not true, it's horrible, oh my God. Well, all the experts say this, and intelligence people say this, and intelligence people say, so what? We already have the evidence. William Holloway, thank you. It's true. All President Trump has to do is look at the evidence. The evidence is that you had FBI officials that fabricated and falsified documents to deceive judges. And then you say, well, the IG couldn't find anything. The IG doesn't have all the evidence. That's why you have John Durham. That's literally why you have John Durham and William Barr coming out saying, the Russia probe wasn't predicated upon evidence. And then they're like, oh, we'll leave it at that because they have enough. Hello, Renee. Hello, Valerie. Lefties are trying our patience big time. Yeah, but William Holloway, thank you. Well said. I just, I find it, check out my segment. It's going to be like 10 minutes after this segment is up on H.A. Goodman's other channel. You have a situation, people, where Kanye West, just being Kanye West, is going to take millions of votes away from Democrats. Why? Because of his name recognition, because of his celebrity status, because he very likely can communicate policy. He very likely can communicate policy objectives better than Democrats. And many of these policy objectives will resonate, or many of the things he'll say will resonate with Democrats. Because he says he wants a Bernie Sanders / Trump platform, which Bernie Sanders has a great deal of overlap with Trump. I explained this in my Federalist article. Hidden for time! The mob makes Democratic policy. Hidden for time, the groupthink on Twitter does, I think. I think it's now basically an extension of, Democrats live within cyberspace. They live within cyberspace. Hidden for time. Thank you, Will Carter. Hidden for time. Great point. Will Carter, I think Kanye might have snatched the Golden Globe from the Golden Moo. The party starts here 11-3 with H.A. The Clarion Goodman. Let's get ready to rumble. Will Carter. Thank you, sir. Joe Zappa, thank you. Yeah, it's pretty. It's not practical though, but it's fun. Joe Zappa, thank you. Will Carter. Be here, Will. November 3rd, greatly appreciated. When President Trump wins, it's going to be, it's just going to be one of the most beautiful times. It will be, let's put it this way, it'll make 2016 look like the highest, best point for in the Democratic Party's history. It'll be like, 2016 will be like fond memories compared to 2020. Because when they lose again, the entire foundation of the Democratic Party is obliterated. The entire foundation is obliterated. So it's like, if you've spent 4 years, ladies and gentlemen, saying that if you've spent 4 years saying that Trump is a one-term president, an anomaly, only racists voted for him, only bigots voted for him, people who really don't understand politics voted for him, the Russians helped him, he's a traitor. I love this. This is hilarious to me. Will, everybody here, they call him a traitor. Why? Even if he worked with Russian intelligence to force Debbie Wasserman Schultz to resign, how would that be? Like, that wouldn't be the act of a traitor. They're the ones who got a Steele dossier compiled with a Russian intelligence officer. Are they traitors for that? So they're hilarious. They go to the 90s Republican playbook, which didn't work out very well. And then they use these terms. That's another thing also. They have zero concept of, they don't own a dictionary. I'll tell you that right now. They do not own a dictionary. They have no concept of words, meaning, semantics, nothing. Basic logic, they don't have basic logic. Logical reasoning skills, like the analogies, the flawed analogies, the metaphors, the hyperbole, everything is hyperbole. They said, I don't even want to get into it. This was just today. Everything's hyperbolic. Everything's hyperbolic. When you constantly have to use euphemism and hyperbole, that means you don't have an argument. That means you lack logical reasoning skills and you don't have an argument. And to sensationalize your point, you then have to deviate from the truth. When you use words and redefine the meanings of words, when you redefine meanings, you redefine the definition of words. You're doing so because you lack an argument. So you want to sensationalize, you want to add some credibility to your argument within your attempt at trying to change definitions or, mangle semantics. It's interesting because what they do is they can't possibly say that Trump, Will, everybody here, they can't possibly say, and thank you, Will, as always, greatly appreciated. Be here November 3rd, everybody. Will, be here November 3rd. Exactly. Cognitive dissonance. It's like they can't possibly, thank you, Peggy, they can't possibly admit that they're wrong, but they also can't possibly understand why they could be wrong. So they always have to adhere to this. I felt this also when I was on the left. I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you right now, most of the people, a great percentage of people on the left, they don't dislike Trump that much. They really don't. But they have to pretend that they do. Because if they don't pretend that they dislike Trump with a passion, they'll be seen as disloyal and they'll be viewed as Trump supporters, which is like the worst, the worst insult that could ever be leveled upon you. The worst insult that could ever be leveled upon you is to be a Trump supporter on the left. And every argument devolves into that. Oh yeah, well, you're a Trump supporter. What? No, I'm not. They're in their own world. You're talking about people who are just stuck in their own world. And it's interesting because who was it? There was one of my amazing subscribers just now. 119 days until the election. 119 days until the election. This is Karl Rove, by the way. In 2016, Karl Rove, if Trump is the nominee, GOP will lose White House and Senate. Okay, and people get on me for saying Clinton would eventually be indicted, which, looking into the future. Karl Rove, if Trump is the nominee, GOP will lose the White House and Senate. This is January 8th, 2016. How wrong could you get? How? The only thing worse than that is when 538 said Trump wouldn't be GOP nominee. Now Karl Rove is saying that Trump won't win. They're doing it again. They are doing it again. They are doing it again. They're doing it again. It's pretty interesting, too, because, like, at a certain point, you can't always, like, I said Clinton would lose swing states. I said Clinton would lose to Trump. It's a pretty good call. Have I been right about everything? No. But I've been on point with most of my analysis the past 3, 4, 5 years. 3, 4 years. I started my channel, like, in 2016. So 16, 17, 18, 19. So 4 years. 4.5 years. And it's just me. It's like, there's no bells and whistles, nothing. It's just my personality. It's annoying. Maybe I do impressions, I used to have bobbleheads with, like, remember, who remembers the bobbleheads I used to have? I think I had, like, Abraham Lincoln and Trump and Clinton, but Batman. Did I have Batman? But these people make millions. Like, Karl Rove makes millions a year. Well, he helped Bush, but that was the worst. See, to me, I always thought that Bush was the worst president we've ever had. I think that Bush is the worst president we've ever had. Wally Pop! Interested to see who Kanye would pick as VP. That's true. Thank you. RAFRODR. Thank you. That's true. Wally Pop. It'd be interesting. But it's like, they keep saying that Trump can't win based on what? They have actually really, really made media coverage into some kind of tangible event or like a tangible decision. Like, usually people are judged on their decision making. Trump is not. Because if he was, they'd view him to be a good president, but just he has different policies. But media is like an actual extension now of President Trump. What they say he meant and what they say he represents is now part of his decision making. So instead of signing the First Step Act, because they don't believe that's an issue, instead of looking at that, they then say, Well, he retweeted something, and therefore this is the epitome of racism. Climb BMX! The lefts are deconstructionalists. Everything wholesome must be rewritten. Yeah, that's another thing also, this rewriting. Like, this is not sustainable. Climb BMX, great point. This is not sustainable. It is not sustainable to keep saying that everyone who disagrees with you is a horrible bigot monster. This is not it's not logical, it's not sustainable, and you can't sweep Joe Biden's nonsense under the rug. Crime bill, worked with segregationists, made horrendous statements in the past about busing, called out by Kamala Harris, said the Charlemagne comment, you ain't black if you vote for anyone else but him. I mean, all of this, like, it's like, how does he get away with this? How is he able to get away with this? I do not know how he's able to get away with this. Well, I know it's media, but how can you judge? Here's what I don't get. How can you judge and condemn and demean others based on your definition of racism when Joe Biden fits that definition and you're voting for him? Not difficult to understand. Even a Democrat could get it. Climb BMX, thank you. Original Professor Chaos, hello. That's good. They're very much into symbols. Except symbols on their side that actually make them look, or imagery, symbols, words, euphemisms, redefining the definition of words. So what they lack in argument, they can just recreate or fabricate within a new language. They don't seem to like, and this is an interesting. I was reading this critique about the left, and it's very interesting. They're not interested in converting people. Like, they're not interested in, they really are not interested in actually getting people to agree with them. They're more interested in intimidating people and mocking them and denigrating them and silencing them. Like, they would rather move opposition out of the way or erase opposition than debate and see how their ideas hold up with scrutiny or with a rebuttal or in some kind of discussion. They view debate as giving a platform to ideas they don't like. I guess that's one way of looking at it. I guess that's one way. They always want to, the interesting thing is that they yell out, and there's a lot of good people that have yelled this out, but Medicare for all, Medicare for all, Medicare for all. Okay, that's good, yeah. I'm not against Medicare for all. If it's feasible, great, but it's not feasible. It's not feasible. But if it were feasible, that'd be fantastic. And then they say, well, we have money for military conflict. And then Bernie Sanders comes out, he's like, I'm slashing the budget. Why don't you say the words bringing Americans home? Because we know why, Bernie. You'd get Max Boot upset. You get Bill Kristol upset. You'd get the Lincoln Project upset with you. That's why. That's the reason Bernie Sanders doesn't say we have to bring home Americans. They don't care about that. Oh, we're going to slash the budget. Well, what's the difference if you're still putting Americans in the middle of never-ending conflict? and keeping them away from their families and their sons, their daughters, their husbands, their wives, their parents. What's the point of slashing the military budget if you're going to continue with never-ending conflict? Then they say, well, we have to have a presence there forever. They're pretty much honest about it. That's why President Trump is a great president. That's exactly why. Because he is opposing that, and he's reversing U.S. foreign policy. That's why. So, William Holloway. Thank you, William. William Holloway, greatly appreciated, sir. Thank you, William. Be here November 3rd. Exactly. Well, I mean, look, I think that I didn't see parabiologies. Let's see, hold on. Yeah, the bobbleheads were hilarious. I love the impressions. That's right. Parabiology, I had the bobbleheads were funny. G-Man DC1, hello. G-Man, hello. This election, this is what I don't think they understand this. President Trump loses, let's say he loses, God forbid. In Hebrew, it's chas v'shalom, God forbid. But let's say he loses, okay? He runs again. If Democrats lose, he runs again in 4 years. If Democrats lose, it's pretty much the end of their political paradigm, and people leave Twitter in droves. You will see a month after President Trump's victory, thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of people eventually will just stop. And when I say leave, might not delete their accounts, but just stop going on because it's a bunch of nonsense. William, thank you again. How often can you try to oppose Trump on social media? Like, why would you, like, if your voice is based upon words that are going to be forgotten 10 minutes after you write them on some message board platform. Lollipop, I've noticed that. Then, like, why would you spend? Because these people say, like, oh, well, I'm opposing Trump. Well, how are you doing it? Well, I'm telling him how horrible he is on social media. You think he cares? I don't think he cares. I really don't think the man cares. Like, I don't think I don't think people on the left get how they could possibly defeat President Trump. They think, again, this is a possessed speaker. I don't think that they understand also, like, not only how to defeat President Trump, but they don't understand what happens to them. They're not really looking into the future. It's only about 4 months. What do you think happens on November 3rd? Let's say, they think it's going to be really close. I don't even think it's going to be that close. I think President Trump's going to win a decisive victory. He's going to win, and then, oh my God, the meltdown, the reprimand. You'll see this on MSNBC. Good job, America. Good job, America. Yeah. Good job. Good job, America. Okay, our democracy is done. Our country is done. Okay, good job. Fantastic. Okay? If it wasn't Putin, now it's Kanye West. There's always somebody. They're not going to... The reprimand... Why would you want to be part of such a negative side? My God. I listen to Trump. I laugh. He's hilarious. That's another reason. Like, why would you laugh at Trump? Because he's very funny. He's funnier than comedians nowadays who are afraid to... who are just so afraid to... offend anybody. Trump doesn't care. He just says what he wants to. This means when Trump retweeted this, and that this means that, and this means, and then when he says something, it goes to a cell tower, and then it goes from that cell tower into a homing beacon of all the bigoted people's minds, and then they vote in Wisconsin for Trump, and then he wins Wisconsin. This is exactly how they think. You'd think they'd be humble. The Iron Sheik has a I'm going to make you humble. You would think they would be, Cosmic Grandpa, hello. Thank you. You would think they'd be humble. I'm going to make you humble. Jabroni. Iron Sheik is the best. But you would think that when are they ever going to be humble? Trump's going to make them humble. When he wins again, can you imagine? It'll be like if the yelling that was only like heard a couple blocks away. This will be heard throughout the galaxy. There'll be Martians on the other edge of the galaxy. Like, what's that noise? Liberals. It's like liberals melting. No. Yeah. And then it'll be 4 more years. Honey, I have a headache. Again? 4 years? I'm thinking of Trump. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am uploading a very, very important segment. That's right, there is no sound in space, that's right. A vibration, vibration of air. Ladies and gentlemen, William, thank you again. Everyone, G-Man, hello. Everyone, thank you. I should be back in about an hour and a half or so. So, check out this channel in about an hour and a half. There's a chance I might do a upload, although I don't think so. But check this channel. People, H.A. Goodman's other channel, I have a great segment up. A very respectful critique of Crystal Ball's assessment of why people vote for President Trump. And it's very respectful. My God almighty. Give me your thoughts below. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Jimbo! Thank you, everybody, to my super chat. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support my voice long term, my Patreon is below. You help me immeasurably. You don't know. You help me do my thing. But ladies and gentlemen, really quickly, every night, I think, there's 119 days. Every night, go to bed, put the covers right next, go to bed, and be like, November 3rd. And then fall asleep just thinking about November 3rd, Trump winning. And the meltdown, the global meltdown. Be like a global meltdown. It'll be amazing. Give me your thoughts below. Jimbo, thank you. Eric, H526, Luke St. Martin, the 2 best moderators in all of YouTube. I'll see you in about an hour and a half, everybody. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel. I have a very special segment, a very, very respectful rebuttal to or critique of Crystal Ball's assessment of why people vote for President Trump. Thank you so very much.